This is Sam Kirby, host of Cinema Stories. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Emily, host of Beauties and Headcanons here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come and check out my show, Beauties and Headcanons, where we talk about nerdy theories, games, TV shows, books, movies, you name it. We're here to talk nerdy to you. A new show comes out every Friday. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
It's hashtag No Filter Friday on Public House Media, except it's Saturday because Hollywood is a crazy place. So I'm going to take a second and share the broadcast with my other Facebook people. Okay, so I really wanted to do this week's No Filter Friday on Rose McGowan's manager that just committed suicide, but getting good, solid information on it is just not happening this week. It's like trying to make fetch happen. And what do we know about fetch? Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. Last time I tried to make fetch happen, Regina George herself showed up and put the kibosh on it. So I don't try to make fetch happen anymore. I just don't. I don't do it. So, with that being said, maybe that story will unfold more next week, and it will develop into whatever craziness that it's going to. And hopefully we can go from there and see if I can get some, decent information on it. But we can backtrack a little and go to, it's an interesting kind of a parallel in the era of Me Too, just after Sundance and someone committing suicide and all of this craziness that's happening. And really, the thing with Me Too, or hashtag Me Too, or whatever it is you want to call it, all of these sexual assault allegations flying around Hollywood, is that just when you think it's going one way, it turns and goes the other way. And really, I had a feeling it was going to be a wild award show season, but it's been kind of quiet. However, once it gets time to be the Oscars here in a couple weeks, I think that's when it's going to get really real around here. Because every other year it gets really, really real with crazy. On the ground at the parties, the closer you get to Oscar Sunday, the more psychopath that trots on out and tries to get in. So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens when we get closer to Oscar time. Because it's coming. It's coming for all of us, folks. It's coming for all of us. Where is this post so I can share it? Where is it? I want to see. Switch to Public House Media so I can share the broadcast because, we want people to join us, right? It's a conversation. That's the whole point of doing a live show. To have people join in. If I wanted to just make videos about it, I could, and I wouldn't have to keep to a schedule. I could just do this at my leisure and put in all kinds of fun things, but I don't. I enjoy having the conversation with you, and that is what's important. That is what's important. Okay, so here we go. Share it. Share to a page. can move it out. Also, this is tea, but it's from Chipotle because this week has been hard. Struggle bus. Struggle bus, folks. Struggle bus. Goodness. Share on a page you manage? No, not that. Share on your timeline? Why does Facebook make this so difficult? Like, seriously. Like, why? Why? Why does it need to do that? Share on your timeline. Let's hope this works, kids. Let's hope this works. Share on your timeline? I think that's what I'm supposed to do. Let's hope this works and we can just get it over with and, like, get back to what we were talking about, which is what matters. Let us see. Let us see. Let us see. Let us see. Great. Perfect. I think I did this right, which is all that matters. I tried. I put an effort. It's really having a hard time. Okay. Wonderful. How very exciting. Okay. So we can go back to the Public House Media page where we belong and keep it rocking for the delayed version of hashtag No Filter Friday. Actually, I can just go back to the regular page. Wonderful. So with that being said, what I want to talk about is what went down at this year's Sundance, because it is in direct relation to what went down with the whole hashtag Me Too situation, and then years prior to that, a similar situation. So, a couple years ago, so 3 Sundances ago, not this past one, not the one before that, the one before that, there was a movie called The Birth of a Nation that came out, that was shown at Sundance. And it did it was made by this guy, Nate Parker. And it was the highest money, the biggest money deal that has ever been done in the history of Sundance. It's this middle of the night, coffee-fueled, crazed sale. And they paid $12 million? $20 million? Millions. Again. Record-breaking sale at Sundance. The only other big sale like that that's even comes close is Blackfish. So, they make a big, giant, scene in the press because they broke the record. They're the biggest sale that's ever happened in the history of Sundance, and it's been going on for quite some time. And it's great. They're headed down their distribution path, and then they were gunning for award show season on top of, what they were going to, hopefully with the money that they were going to make. So, with that being said, it gets to be around about the time for the movie to come out, and they did it during Oscar season. There is a certain time of the year to release your movie if you're going to be gunning for awards, if you're really going to be campaigning, doing your FYC for any of the Guild Awards, Oscars, Golden Globes, etc. Anything that falls under EGOT. Most of those movies get released on either like Thanksgiving Day or later. Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, like all of those movies that come out in that late piece of the year are most of the time they're all gunning for these awards. Like that's the reason why you release during that time of the year. Sometimes, like this year, like The Big Sick, Get Out, those movies released way earlier in the year and they're still trying to ride the wave. But they have to try to ride way, way harder because they released earlier in the year. Like Kamal Nanjiani and Emily Gordon's For Your Consideration campaign for The Big Sick has been like a clawing battle. Like they're really, really putting in work on it, and hopefully they win. They've already won a little bit, but hopefully they get the golden statue. It's nice to have a golden statue, but it's better to have the golden statue. So with that being said, that's how that works. Birth of a Nation came out a little bit on the early side for Oscar season. And a girl that said that Nate Parker had raped her in college committed suicide. She killed herself. And it was rough. It was very, very rough. And not only did she commit suicide in that time, but it was her third try. She had tried to commit suicide 2 other times prior in her life. Oh, Bridget's here. Hi, Bridget. Thanks for coming in. She had tried to commit suicide twice before. She had been to, in and out of therapy, et cetera, all that jazz. And this time around, when Birth of a Nation released, she finally did it. For real. Dunsies. And it made a lot of press and craziness around the movie. We're like, well, Nate Parker, he was acquitted of it because they didn't have sufficient evidence. And that's pretty standard in a sex crime case. The likelihood of you getting a conviction in a sex crime without a rape kit and DNA evidence is like next to nothing. It is a miracle that Dr. Larry Nassar got convicted in the way that he did, and he had 140 girls come out with similar stories and medical bills, like receipts that, showed their days and times that they were with this guy. And then they also had email receipts from their correspondence with USA Gymnastics and with MSU saying, hey, you should look into this guy because he's not right. So they also have that, and that's going to keep going. But they were able to get that conviction because of those things. She was not able to get a conviction because she didn't have a rape kit, she didn't have any of that stuff. And that, hang on one second, is a very, very big deal in that situation when you're trying to legally go for something. Oh, Baxter's here. My supportive Baxter, who I love so much. What would I do without you? So that's what happened to her. And I was in a producer conference, which is a very closed, tight, small room. And we were talking to, amongst ourselves in an open forum with everybody, that's also a producer, writer, whatever, who's around in town in Culver City, right next to Sony. And somebody asked, like, well, what's going on with this Nate Parker thing and this chick that killed herself or whatever? Like, and the general consensus in the room was that, it was a whisper campaign from other studios. Oh, Orlandi's here too. Oh, hello. Hello. It's a whisper campaign from other studios. People are just trying to knock them out of the running for awards, blah, 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 blah. So this movie tanks. It tanks hard. It was a financial flop. Highest deal ever done at Sundance. That also became a huge flop. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. It was a mess for Birth of a Nation. It was a mess for the studio. It was a mess for the festival. It was certainly a mess for Nate Parker. And it was definitely like a literal mess for the girl that killed herself and her family and all of this like mess. Mess. Cut to years later, and all of the things have come out. Oh, and Karen's here. Hi, Karen. All of the things have come out with all of these, sexual misconduct, rape, molest, pedophilia, everything that happens around this filthy, disgusting town. And now it's a thing in the news, and we're onto award show onto Sundance again, and onto award show season again this year. Oh, and Roger's here. Roger, chime in, buddy. Chime in. What's the buzz going around the Oscars? If anybody in this knows, it's definitely good old Roger Neal. P.S. Can't wait for the beauty lounge. FYI, I've been thinking about my lash extensions because that's Roger and I's date every year. Anyway, so this year at Sundance, was rough. Steven and I had an epic time, did tons and tons and tons of press. The premiere for White Fang was awesome. It was great. They bussed in kids down from Salt Lake City to come see the premiere because it was a kids' movie. It's animated. It is the animated version of Jack London's book. Hang on a second. White Fang. It's actually a French movie. Steven, Nick Offerman, Eddie Spears, Rashida Jones, Paul Giamatti did the English voice version of it. And it's pretty cool. Hang on, I can't see this. See? Rogers knows. Oh, and AJ's here. AJ, what's going on over at your camp for Oscar season? What's going on? Tell me, buddy. I'm curious to know. So this year's Sundance, although we had a blast, it was a little bit colder than I remember it being, but it was good. Sundance 2018 flop. It was, Darkest Hour is going to win big? Okay. Oh, this is live. Haha, you scared me. Yes, it's live, AJ. Of course it's live. The Sundance kicks off. No. All right, this is from IndieWire. Slow Sundance sales bring the festival back to its roots as filmmakers contemplate the future. So, this is from IndieWire. Although we had a good time, we all had a great time until the offers came in. They were a bunch of lowballs. Stop the Press is the latest Sundance Film Festival contained a few late-night, 7-figure sales for potentially commercial movies. Clearly, something disastrous has happened to the movie industry when major companies avoided making huge business decisions within the confines of a hectic and snowy 10-day window. Usually, that's the best time. They love midnight deals at Sundance, or 3 a.m. deals, or whatever. At least that's the popular narrative that a slow Sundance market tends to invite, and it's an industry perception as a whole. As consumer habits and delivery methods continue to evolve and the culture undergoes radical shifts in the stories it tells, both the market and the movies are moving in a million directions at once, which is true, which is absolutely... Oh, Lauren's here. Hey, Lauren. I'm so glad you came by. I haven't seen you in forever and a day. There is the new distribution platforms and things like that is definitely a main component. And then this floppy Sundance, the floppiest of Sundances, but we'll get to that in a second. There are countless reasons why only a handful of big sales happened at Sundance this year. Netflix, which closed out the 2017 edition by spending a jarring $12.5 million on Mudbound. My friend made that movie, and it's fabulous, and their FYC campaign's just gorgeous. Faces a less pressing need to shore up its slate now that it has dozens of in-house productions coming out this year, including several that premiered at Sundance, such as a well-reviewed Private Life. Why deal with the markup of paying off investors when it can be the investor? Very, very true. Amazon, which nabbed the big stick for $12 million last year, faces... I think they got the big stick from South by Southwest, I'm pretty sure. Faces an evolution of its own priorities as the company reportedly shifts to a bigger productions. Its team tracked plenty of titles at the festival, but in a year with programming that doesn't cater to massive demographics, its silence makes total sense. Sundance is its own animal, and there's some incredible stuff that comes out of there, but there's also some festival pieces that are not made for the general public. Which is fine. Festival pieces are cool within the filmmaking community. Setting aside those two prominent disruptors, who does that leave? Fox Searchlight? Cheapies. They're cheapskates. Still hurting from last year's $10 million deal for box office flop Patty Cakes. I didn't even hear of that movie. But now has a new owner, Disney, on its back and seems to be taking it easy. Disney is gobbling up companies right now, so we'll see how that goes too. But several others went to town. Many of the regular Sundance players made a few solid deals, while a few fresh entities left the mark. The Orchard Nab documentary fiction heist hybrid American Animals. That was definitely a toast to Sundance. Right, I think you're totally right. Oscar ratings could be low this year due to more art movies instead of movies for the masses. That's true. People they have to find new ways to like definitely win an Oscar, so they're just going crazier and crazier. Ask old Leo. He had to get humped by a bear in a Canadian wilderness to get his Oscar finally, and we all know he deserved it many, many years ago, but c'est la vie. Leo had to have one hard thing in his life. He couldn't just come out like that and just have everything. He needed to be put through some tribulations of some kind. Oh, in a unique partnership with emerging new media powerhouse MoviePass. Very cool. Relative newcomer Neon, with the wind in its sails under the support of a new 30 West, spent a whopping $10 million on the rambunctious hacking satire Assassination Nation, along with a handful of smaller deals. Annapurna Pictures, which is a big one, still fighting to establish itself as a major distributor. I don't think that's true. I think Annapurna's killing it, as usual. Landing the astonishing satire, sorry to bother you. 30 West also lent its support to Bleecker Street, a more traditional theatrical distributor that caters to middlebrow sensibilities, which picked up the biopic Colette Bleecker. Also bought Leave No Trace, Deborah Gannick's father-daughter drama to follow up Winter's Bone. Sony Picture Classics went for the Kelly MacDonald crowd pleaser puzzle. How can you go wrong with Kelly MacDonald? We're going to get back to that in a second. Magnolia took Nab the 10's 9/11 thriller The Guilty, and the documentary Kusuma Infinity closing night selection Hearts Beat Loud went to Gunpowder and Sky. And the very first theatrical sale of this year's festival didn't involve an old school Sundance bidder keen on landing a commercial sensation with visions of Oscar campaigns. Instead, hip New York entity Oscilloscope Laboratories picked up Eugene Jarecki's The King, an engrossing road trip investigation into Elvis Presley's legacy and its parallels with American culture as a whole. Oscilloscope, which was founded by the late Beastie Boy rapper Adam Yoch, and celebrated its 10th anniversary at the festival this year, represents a striking contrast to the notion that the only biggest commercial play must launch at the festival. Not true at all. Not true at all. Yes, he did. Okay, so Leo did win for the wrong movie, but he totally deserved it. But he had to get humped by a bear to finally make it happen. I mean, he should, in my opinion, he should have won back for Gilbert Grape. He should have had this a long time ago, but Leo's been blessed with a great many easy things in his life, which is for a different show on a network where I can speak how I want to. I don't, I'm not bound to speak politely. That's another story. That's another show. All right. Sundance premieres that Oscilloscope has released to reasonable success over the years range from the twisted buddy movie Bellflower to the eerie Brooklyn thriller Mother of George for The King. Oh, quit it. The company is planning to slow theatrical rollout around the country, designed to target communities where Elvis' legacy looms large. Oh, gosh, they're going to Nashville. That's really cool, though. That's kind of an interesting theatrical distribution strategy. Do we really need to read the rest of this? All right. The moral of the story is people weren't buying at Sundance. They had a couple buys, but most of my friends that had movies in, including Steven's movie, or excluding Steven's movie. We had lots of friends there with lots of different movies, all different kinds of stuff. Oh, Steven Salt, hey buddy. People weren't buying, and if they were buying, it was lowball offers, and a lot of it had to do with, yes, there is a new distributor component into it, and it's digital stuff, and they're just not going to pay what a theatrical release would pay. But they were also making really safe bets. Like, the movies that sold had zero chance of the star ending up being with accusations, or a producer being without accusations. They were all super, super, super safe PR buys. We saw a movie at Sundance called Pick of the Litter, and it's the cutest. It's the cutest. Oh my gosh. If you do not know, Sundance encompasses all of Park City and then down into Salt Lake. It's grown into this giant animal. At Treasure Mountain, which is at the top of the hill in Park City, is a hotel there, and they host Slamdance, which is like the redheaded stepchild to Sundance. But they have really cute stuff there, and it's a very fun festival, and you should, if you're in the area, you should totally go because it's very cool. Very indie friendly. They have lots of panels, and they have a hot tub party at Slamdance. Does Sundance have a hot tub party? No, they don't. You can party at the Caledonian, which has hot tubs in the room, or on the balconies of rooms, but they don't have an official party. So if you're looking for a hot tub party and you're in Park City during Sundance Slamdance, go there. With that being said, we saw this movie called Pick of the Litter, and it is about the journey that this litter of lab puppies takes in this facility that trains dogs for the blind. Hi, Robert Craig. What's going on? And it follows their entire journey to maybe being guide dogs or being career changed to other types of dogs, or dogs that just aren't allowed to be guide dogs because they can't behave. And it was amazing. There wasn't a dry eye in the place, but it was a really cheap, cute doc. And in my opinion, in other years and other movie buying climates, they would have not gotten a theatrical release. Docs getting a theatrical release at all is a really, really newfangled concept. And unless you're Michael Moore or Dinesh D'Souza or, Wildcard, the Blackfish people, that's not really a thing. So the fact that IFC gave them a theatrical at all, but they got a theatrical, and I think they got a day and date too. So they got an on-demand and a theatrical, which is amazing. And it's such a cute movie. It's the cutest, but dogs will never bring you bad PR. Unless, of course, you're Universal and someone leaks a video of you throwing a German Shepherd into a pool that it doesn't want to be in. That can tank your movie. It's called Pick of the Litter, and it's super, super cute. IFC is doing their distribution deal, so they're going to get theatrical, so they'll be in movie theaters at some point somewhere. And then they will also have a day and date for kind of a promoted on-demand situation. And it's such a cute movie. You will cry like a child, and you'll be like, oh my god, the baby dog, and now it's an adult, and you'll cry for the people, you'll cry for it's fantastic, and it's a really good look at what it takes to become a service dog, and it's very, very cool. And they brought dogs to the screenings, which was amazing, of course. And then at a festival, after the screening, the people that made it get up and they do a Q&A with either the festival programmer or whoever, depending on the situation. And they were like, our distributor, we were doing our deal with IFC, with the people from the distribution at IFC, and they're like, look, these are our dogs. And they're like, can we please do this deal? It's 2 a.m. We're running out of coffee. I will look at your dog tomorrow when you've paid for this movie, essentially. But it was so, so sweet and adorable. So dogs are a good bet. And I have to say, we had dogs coming around with us for the press rounds for White Fang, and people were losing their minds. Absolutely losing their marbles over these dogs, because we had a full-grown husky and then a baby one, and people were pushing Jim Parsons out of the way, pushing Octavia Spencer out of the way, Priyanka Chopra out of the way. I need to see this baby dog. One girl cried. There was a girl at the wrap that was one of their social media girls or something. She cried over the baby dog. It was mind-blowing. So, if you want to do good press, have dogs at your situation. It works great. But my friend had a really, really big movie down on Saturday, and they had a ton of hype. They had a really great party. They were in the midnight screening. The midnight screenings at festivals have become their own animal. Like, it's like this whole other piece of festivals that's like, ooh, midnight screenings, whatever. They do. They totally do. It's 100% true. So he was like all like jazzed and also like scared of like what was going to happen. And apparently they just got a bunch of lowball offers, which sucks because who wants a lowball offer, man? If you want, it takes miracles. It takes miracles and gobs of money and tons of people to actually make a movie and finish it and like birth it into the world. Nobody wants a lowball offer, like nobody. So we'll see what happens with that. But that has been the overall sentiment. But these buyers are scared to buy because if they have almost any guy as their lead, like somebody could come out against them and it might not even be true and it'll tank their whole thing. It's like millions and millions and millions of dollars and people's careers on the line. Finding money is the hardest part. It isn't. Like, for some people, finding distribution is the hardest part, and they're already fully funded and in the hole for a bunch of money. And for other people, they got to find the money, and then they'll plug everything else in later. I think it just depends on, like, the kind of project that you're working on, honestly, because now you can do some, like, pretty crafty stuff, like, for distribution. But at the same time, though, like, I think a lot, like, the PR situation was a huge deal for them, and everybody was running so scared because what is going on with my hair? My goodness. The PR situation is really, really hard because you never know who BuzzFeed's going to dig out, or who the New York Post is going to dig out, or who the LA Times is going to come, dig out against somebody. And then you've got this whole controversy, blah, 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 blah. And, from an indie perspective, like, if you don't have, like, an outside P&A budget that you had been keeping, or some agreement with your distributor of, like, what they're going to do, of, like, a crisis clause, shall we say, it'll just get shelved. Like, they're not gonna fix the PR around it. They'll just take whatever losses they have and move on to their other full slate of movies, and your movie will never see the light of day, which would be terrible because you've already signed it away and there's literally nothing you can do. It's already there. So it's sad. Like, now that the business is being affected by all of these sexual misconduct allegations, whether they be true, because as we all know, Weinstein is usually a major player at Sundance, and God knows they weren't there because who's really? So an entire mini major is missing, and then you've got all of these other PR scared buyers that are left, and most of them can't pay. It's very hard to make, like, a sale on a movie that costs you, like, what theatrical money on a digital distribution. Like, Netflix is cool or whatever, but their financials they're in so much debt, it's crazy. Like, so if they're just going to buy it from you, great. It's not really your problem anymore, but... Oh, hey, Aaron's here. Hey, Aaron. Well, I mean, they do. It's just that, like, this town is very, very small. Like, everybody knows everybody. But, a mini major who who was in the business of like making and buying and making and buying. Like there's other companies out there like that, but Weinstein was splashy. You know, they used to give decent deals because they didn't really have anything else to offer. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. There's other mini majors you just don't really hear about them as much out in the world because they're not as splashy as Weinstein or not as splashy as Miramax or not as splashy as Dimension. Any of the companies that Weinstein had. Entourage is a perfect example of that. Like, who was in the Sundance arc of Entourage? The Weinsteins, of course. Like Harvey himself did it. So, yeah, this town is very, 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 very small. There's only so many distributors. There's only so many places to go, and that hole will be filled. It's just a really immediate shock. Like there's some, how can I explain this? All the festivals are different animals. Tribeca is different. Tribeca is different than TIFF. TIFF is different than Sundance. Sundance is different than Cannes. Cannes is different from Berlin. Berlin's different from Venice. Venice is different from, South by Southwest. Like there's so many, they're all, or Telluride, like there's all these festivals that are completely so close, but yet so far from different. Like they all have their own different styles. They all have their own things that the programmers like. The business is different. Who gets in it's just a whole, it's festivaling alone is like its own full-time job. Like honestly, like if you're going to go the festival route, like you might as well hire a consultant and, really hedge your bets and double down on that festival and get what you can get out of it, because not every movie is suitable for every festival. And now like big studios are like moving in on that territory. It's crazy. It's crazy out there. But it was really interesting to see the aftermath of Sundance, or like even just walking around like, hey, did you get a deal yet? Or, what were your offers like last night? And they're like, well, not really. Or, oh, low, I'm totally sweating. I don't know what we're going to do. We spent $15 million on this. We spent $10 million on this. And we don't have a sale. And if we do have a sale, we're taking it a loss. I do know somebody, I'm not going to say their name, that's been doing, just been making money hand over fist, charging money to people that don't survive a festival and don't, they don't get a deal. They can't get a distributor. And they're paying this company, this distribution company, a fee, a small fee, not a big fee, a small fee to just like dump their content onto some digital platform that will just take it. Which is also an option. Like just because somebody's like, oh, my thing's on Netflix, or oh, I'm on, does not mean that they have an actual real deal. I love this candle so much. I sit here and smell it because it's so disgusting. Oh, thank you. All right. Thanks for coming by, Robert Craig. That was very cool of you. What was I saying? I said goodbye, and now I can't remember what I was saying. I hate it when this happens. Yes, thank you, Roger. The foot in the door fee. That's a really good way to put it. At Sundance, Amazon Prime self-distribution did their own, like, I still have the flyer somewhere. Maybe I'll post it because it's really interesting. If you were official selection for Sundance, whether you were a feature, short, doc, they don't care. You could self-distribute and they would let you keep certain rights and then have a payout for certain rights. It was really, really interesting. So just because on like Amazon Prime is really, really getting into this whole like self-distribution, hey, we'll pay you if somebody watches this kind of a thing. It's like a residuals only kind of a deal. But I think in the case for that company that's just like getting paid to dump stuff, I don't think they're getting residuals or anything from it. I think they're just be like, hey, do you want this free content? will set you up with your deliverables and all the stuff that you need, and just have content. Because everybody's content hungry. Doesn't mean they're necessarily willing to pay for it. So that's where we are, unfortunately, in this craziness. So now it's affecting the business part of it, but that's what happens. Anytime there's a big, oh my gosh, we don't know, business gets affected. So thank you all for joining me here on Public House Media for #NoFilterFriday. Even though it's Saturday, I'm a day behind because I was really trying to make fetch happen. And I know that I shouldn't, but I tried. It was worth a Hail Mary pass. See you later, kids.